In my generation, there are usually two kinds of people. Ones that want to go into traditional careers like medicine, law, or business. And then there's the ones that want to swim against the tide, that want to rebel against those standards and prove everyone wrong, showing how useless these standards are and how they don't make sense. But both these types of people have one common problem. They're planning their future around the expectations of others, like their family, for example, but they're not planning their own future. And it makes you feel immensely pressured, like you're facing an invisible wall that kind of holds you back when you're in this position. And it isn't just a feeling. 33% of all us young people don't believe they can affect the world in any way, not at all. At the same time, though, 87% think that it's important to change the world in some way. So how can there be this big of a discrepancy? What are those 70% feeling? Well, this isn't a binary question, nor is there a binary answer to it. But it does come back to that exact invisible wall, the sense of helplessness. And it can be a significant barrier to pursuing our true passion. And I was there too. But instead of staring at that wall and feeling sorry for myself, I decided to turn around and look at that ocean of opportunities that's out there. The world is actually full of opportunities, but most of us are just so focused on either adhering or rebelling against those standards that others set for us that they don't even realize what's out there. But I do have to admit, I always wanted to be a bit of a rebel. But being a rebel lacked something for me, some kind of purpose, something to strive towards, to achieve something. And I was looking for that something for a very long time. Until a seemingly random day where I simply tried to book train tickets across Europe. But why trying? Well, the systems I was trying to use were loading incredibly slowly, so there was a lot of downtime. And I tried to fill that downtime by looking and seeing what these systems are all about. And with a bit of curiosity and boredom, I found out that these systems were built in the 90s, based on technology from the 80s, yet they were still used back then in 2022. And I thought to myself, how can this be? Is this 40-year-old system even capable of selling us or just simply planning train routes across Europe? But don't get me wrong, the problem wasn't that it was just old and therefore bad. The system's problem was that the routes it suggested took hours longer than they should have been and were more expensive at the same time. So just to give you a quick example, the routes that system suggested took 11 to 12 hours, whilst personally at that time, I was aware of a route that only took 7 or 8 hours and was cheaper at the same time. And that's what didn't make any sense to me. However, it seemed to me that no one else really cared, that they just accepted the status quo. But when you accept the status quo, nothing will change. And I realized that, and honestly, because I didn't want to spend another 4 hours on a train, I sat down and I analyzed these systems to look at their intricacies, to understand what they're about. And because of that, I then decided to start a project during my school year still, and as pretty much a school project, to build a prototype to show what can be done with the very limited resources I had back then as a student. I expanded on it, I improved it, I founded my own first startup, and I motivated the right kind of people to help me bring about that change. My mission started with a simple ripple, a small yet disruptive idea, and I nurtured it into a wave to shape tomorrow. What I want to tell you with this anecdote is that you don't have to be some kind of expert in a field already or have a PhD to have the authority to question and eventually change things. It is mostly about looking out at that sea of opportunities, because with open eyes, opportunities actually find you. Believe it or not, I didn't plan on going into the train scheduling app business. It was mostly a random experience, meeting my own curiosity, that got me into it. And when something like that actually happens, You will find yourself obsessing about the topic, digging deeper, hungry to understand and wanting to find a solution. And all of a sudden, you won't care anymore what others think of you or what they expect you to do. You are full of energy, you're on a mission, and you're actually planning your own future. But I understand that navigating these waters can be a very difficult task. There's so much to discover out there, so without guidance, you can feel very lost. And let's face it, who wouldn't, seeing that vast world all of a sudden opening up to you? But disruptive innovation, or making waves, starts on a much smaller, local scale. Think of your everyday lives as a pond, a calm body of water with many small parts to it, like how you get your coffee in the morning, how you file your taxes, how you got here to this very event, or how you stand in line at airport security. Think about all these small parts as potential ripples, ways to be improved, and be a sponge. But what does being a sponge really mean? Well, sponge is a concept that I developed to help you navigate these waters, a framework to guide you. And sponge consists of 6 steps, starting with scan. Try to look around you and find opportunities, problems that you think are actually worth solving, that matter to you, that impact you. And when you find such problems, you will almost naturally go towards trying to dig deeper into them, understanding what they're about. And that leads me to the second point, probe. Probing is that deeper diggings and understanding what these problems are really about, understanding the intricacies, who they're affected, how these people are affected by these problems, and understanding these nitty-gritty details. And you get to a point all of a sudden where you almost become an expert in this very topic. But when you get to that point, you actually want to take a step back and look at observing. Because you have all these deep, intricate insights now, you want to look at the entire industry and understand what they're about, what moves them, what kind of trends there are, how they currently face problems or circumvent them, understand patterns and insight into them. And now you have both this bigger picture of how a small part of the world moves and these deep, intricate insights into this one topic. And now you can start to formulate your own opinion, your own educated opinion. But there's no guarantee that what you think is actually the right tool for the job to change something. Which leads me to networking. Network with people, connect with people that have different opinions, that view a problem from a different angle than yours, and understand where they're coming from. Try to figure out how they would solve a problem, how they would approach it. And only with this almost full picture, where you really understand all parts of this problem, you can go and generate. Generating is brainstorming, essentially. But you don't, again, want to only focus on your angle, think that your opinion is right, because that's actually wrong most of the times. You want to focus on all these different angles that are out there. You want to cast a very wide net and understand and approach problems from all these positions. And generate a lot of ideas, because you will burn through them. But look at it this way. Every problem you encounter, every failed idea you have, actually brings you closer to success, to a yes. And you want to generate a lot of yeses, or even just maybes, because those you feel actually confident implementing and confident taking action on. And that's the last step, to simply take action and implement your ideas. But you don't want to directly deploy everything globally or change everything with one sweep. Start small. Start with ripples that you can incrementally grow, that you can iterate upon, that you can change up even if you don't like them anymore. And this way, you can achieve something bigger over time. And now let's get back to that pond that we were discussing earlier, this pond being your life. Look at the surface of it. Now it's probably very calm. A pond's a very calm kind of water. But what happens when it starts to rain? At first, there's a few drizzles, some ripples are forming. But now the rain gets heavier and it gets heavier. Look at that water now. See a lot of disruption, see waves even. And that's exactly what I mean. Start small, start a lot, and turn that into waves. And whilst we're on the topic of making waves, turn away from that wall of societal pressure that you've been facing essentially all your life and explore what's out there in the world. And by being a sponge, you can turn the ripples of today into the waves of tomorrow. Thank you.